I had this mentality until I was like 18 or 19 that I do not have a disability. I am like everyone else. I'm going to hide it. I hate it, whatever. Seeing other disabilities change my mindset in the teenage years when the body is changing. So as accepting that I'm slower than the girls I've been competing against my whole life. That was a hard one.
Welcome to Hidden Champions. This is Danny Arovich, two-time, soon-to-be three-time U.S. Paralympian, and I'm excited to bring you this podcast alongside FIS. We are diving into the stories of para-athletes, some of the best athletes you've never heard of. And my goal is to change that so that you know all their stories leading into Milano Cortina 2026. Today, we have one of the best para-alpine women on the circuit. She was one of the up-and-comers in Beijing, taking home 3 medals to her name. Everyone from Sweden, please welcome Ebba Årsjö. Ebba, where are you right now and what are you doing?
Well, right now I'm in France, Ting. I don't know how to pronounce it, and I'm doing downhill. First time in 2 or 3 years. Exciting. Yeah.
Wow. So does this mean you're coming out of downhill retirement?
I don't know. I've been sick for like half of the season and I had to get into racing and do as many races as I could. So yeah, that's why.
Very fair. How many days in the winter are you typically on the road? What does a winter look like for you?
Oh, wow. We often start skiing somewhere else in the world because in Sweden we don't have snow until like October, November, it depends. So we ski as much as we can in Sweden, but not all year round. It's more than 100 days away, for sure.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And how long have you been skiing for? What age did you start skiing at?
I started skiing when I was 5 or 6, which is pretty late. Yeah, but my parents, they were like waiting a year or two because of my leg. They were like a little bit scared. And so me and my sister, they threw us in the slope when I was about 6.
What made you fall in love with skiing at that young age?
Oh, wow. One thing is that I did a lot of sports. I tried everything. I was very active and like I had a lot of energy as a kid. And with skiing, it was like, it didn't hurt as much as running around and like football or, basketball or whatever. When I put my foot in the ski boot, it was like, I remember telling my mom, I was like, this doesn't hurt that much.
Oh, that's awesome. And probably felt so freeing and so relieving that you could find an activity where your impairment wasn't bothering you as much. Do you feel like it held you back ever when you started ski racing? Or were you able to hang in there with the rest of the kids who were racing too?
I was, as you say, hanging in there for pretty long until the teenage years, I think, when I started high school, competing against real like women, and your body is like developing and getting heavier, and the course is getting longer. The training is so much more, and that's when I started to realize, like, oh shit, I do have a pretty big impairment.
And how did you discover then para-alpine skiing? Because it sounds like it wasn't on your radar when you were a little kid. No. So then how did you discover it?
It was like me and a friend just talking about it when I was 17 or 18. And it was just joking around. But then I kind of like started thinking about it for real. And I remember telling my dad, like, do you know about the Paralympics? And he was like, no, I didn't know anything. I was like, should we like try or see what it is? And if there's even a category for me? And he was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And we had like a goal, which was to see if there's a category for me, see if I get classified. And if I do, then I know that's where I'm supposed to be. Because I was like, that part of your life where like, I don't know who I am or whatever. or that is how it started.
And for people who haven't seen Para-Alpine before, you compete in the standing category as an LW4. So can you break down, for anyone who might be watching the Paralympics for the first time this winter, what does the LW4 category mean?
I think I can quote this one. Lower limb amputation or muscle impairment, something like that. So it was, I think in the beginning, it's supposed to be only for amputees. And they kind of threw in muscle impairment, like, I don't know how many years ago. Yeah.
Your journey is incredible. To go from learning about Para-Alpine in 2019 to 3 years later, standing on the medal stand 3 times in Beijing across 3 separate events. What did it take once you said, okay, I'm going to give parasport a shot? What did it take then to get to that podium in Beijing?
Well, it was a long kind of journey to even to just start para skiing. It was a whole year of just classification and paperwork and stuff. They are very slow at that. And then I did a European Cup race, and then half a year later, I did my first World Cup in 2019. And
wow.
Well, I did DNF a lot, but I did get my first win in the beginning of 2019. And from there, it was like the whole Swedish team was like, okay, let's like, what's it called? Push for the games. And the journey from there to the games was just like this. I didn't know what I was doing, or like, I know my sport, I know skiing, I know what I was doing there, but I was very young and I didn't know anything about parasports. I tried to learn how it works and get to know all the people, and you know how it is.
Definitely. I was a college track and field runner in the US and didn't do anything para related. And then I started running para track and field back in 2019, actually. And it was like, yes, I'm doing the same sport that I did against able-bodied competitors, but there is all this different spin on it now in the para world, understanding classifications, learning more about disability and the range of disability and how competitions work and qualifications. So I totally get that and understand that. And I think actually a lot of para athletes who maybe grew up doing their sport and did it against non-disabled peers have had that experience. And so I think you're not alone in it, but it can definitely feel overwhelming. So do you feel like you had a good support through your family, through your friends, through the Swedish Paralympic Committee to really help you get to that big stage when this was all so much newness to you?
Yeah, I think I did. I was still skiing in the able-bodied FIS at the same time at 2020 and 2021, because the able-bodied FIS like community and the races, that was like my whole life for many, many years. So I had a hard time leaving that tour and those all the people. So I did both para races and able-bodied races, which I think was, which I know is why I'm competing at such a high level. And at that time I was still living at home. I had my family, my dad, very supportive, always. We're very close, our family. And yes, I think the welcoming from Parasport Sweden was just perfect. I mean, they were so happy to have someone new. And like, they're always very like supportive and kind, and they were patient with me, I would say.
Were there emotional hurdles that you had to overcome yourself to accept para is the place I belong? Because I know, again, as someone who similarly went through this competing high level against people without disabilities to then joining the para sports space, there is this kind of emotional journey you have to go on to somewhat accept your disability and accept, you know, this is the reality, is that I compete here. I now have to earn respect amongst these peers too. I
can totally relate to what you're saying. It took many years skiing in para. It didn't change overnight. I had this mentality until I was like 18 or 19 that I do not have a disability. I am like everyone else. I'm gonna hide it. I hate it, whatever. And then being at the circuit, competing, getting to know other people, seeing other disabilities, changed my mindset and how I view the world, how I view myself, and how I approach things and everything. But it was very slowly. And I was at the same time in the process, of in the teenage years when the body is changing. So I was accepting that I'm slower than the girls I've been competing against my whole life. That was a hard one because I've been, like you, like quite high level in Sweden with able body, and then accepting that maybe I can't follow them. You know what I mean?
And so many para athletes, I think, who did play non-disabled sports 100% understand that. And I think what's been cool, at least for myself, is getting to learn about the community of disability, like a community that obviously I belong to, but I didn't know much about because I didn't have much interaction with it until I entered parasport and I started learning more about my teammates and my competitors and the different types of disabilities they have and kind of, the way they also have to take on this world that is not designed with them. Like one of the first ski camps I went to was one of the times I probably spent the most time in a week with someone who uses a wheelchair. And it was just like, for the first time in my life, I was firsthand witnessing like all the places she couldn't get into because they didn't have a ramp, or all these different areas that we couldn't access in the town we were. And it helped me start to advocate better for the greater community when I had those firsthand experiences of seeing people who had a different disability than me, because I always say I had a very privileged disability because I could access inaccessible places and I could participate in sports in my schools growing up. A wheelchair basketball player doesn't get to try out for the basketball team at their school. I think it is something that takes time, and it takes a lot of learning and patience with yourself too, to realize I can still be competitive against people who don't have disabilities, but I can also have this new challenge of parasport and meet people. I was just so impressed when I started running track and field at the level of the people in my category in paratrack. Like I almost had probably an impression that it might not be as elite as it ended up being. And that was a hard thing, but a good thing, I think, for me to ultimately see. I love that you've, went through this journey and seen to like how you can accept and be appreciative of your body that you maybe once didn't like. And so what do you think is your favorite thing that your body does for you when you're ski racing?
Maybe it's just that I am ski racing. I feel proud always skiing nowadays rather than feeling ashamed. Like growing up, I felt ashamed because I wasn't as strong and good sometimes with my leg, and now I feel proud instead, and that's it's empowering. We always talk about or nowadays with social media, or my body looks like this, or my body looks like that. I feel like my body can do this. Like I can go downhill, skiing, jumping.
It might look different, it might function different, but it can still do things for you that are really impressive and really athletic and really fulfilling. It's a powerful tool. And I think we see that across parasport because there's oftentimes this association, I feel like, with an athletic look. It's like a strong, male, able-bodied, very muscular. And I think that's what's really cool about parasport is it can redefine what athleticism looks like, because athletic can come in many different forms, and it can be someone who has no use of their legs, or it can be someone who has no vision. Like it can just show up in many different ways. And the way that people naturally are forced to adapt when they have disabilities, but figure out ways to still perform a sport or use a piece of equipment for the sport in such a high level way, I think is something that makes parasport so fascinating to watch, because you can see how people have spent decades or even recent, like if it's a recent injury that they had occur and now they're in parasport, like how their body is adapting to the new way of maybe doing the sport that they've never seen or done before. So I think that's one of my favorite things to
and
watch in
also,
parasport.
If you know the feeling of, oh, if she can, I can.
Having someone who looks like you.
Yeah. Or like if she's doing it, why am, like in Sweden, I'm trying to advocate this, that you can look whatever you can. You don't have to train, you don't have to do this and that and that, but you can at least try. You have the ability, even if you don't think that you do.
So you end up going to Beijing. You medal in 3 different events. And I think that's something, too, that people who might be watching para for the first time might not know, is oftentimes in the Olympic side, people specialize in tech or speed events, but a lot of para athletes do both.
Yeah.
So what is it like when you're trying to train for super combined, downhill, slalom? Like, how do you train for these different type of Alpine events?
It's a puzzle. It's really hard to do all 5. And I mean, that's one thing I really like about para athletes. Like, everyone's like, hell yeah, I'm doing all 5. Like, the mentality of like para people is like, of course. And I love it. Back to your question, was like, I don't know really. I've skied slalom and giant slalom my whole life, so that was easy. I think I just took whatever technique I had in slalom and giant slalom and put it in the speed and just went. I don't know. I was not thinking that much.
Do you ever have fear in the speed events? Like, that is, you know, how fast you're going and the jumps involved. And I think something people also don't realize in para alpine is you guys are using the same courses as like the Olympic women. So how do you handle the speed? Do you have no fear, or do you shut off your brain?
I'm one of those who do not think very much of the speed. I'm like, when I'm jumping, I'm more of like, woo, instead of like, ah. I mean, I love speed. I like going fast. I don't think I'm that afraid, to be honest. And maybe that's that's maybe my problem, that I should think more of the speed.
Fair. Well, after Beijing, you took some time to not compete in downhill. So what led to that decision to back off of downhill and go back to your tried and true events of GS and slalom? Well,
it had nothing to do with downhill. And I love speed. I think it's very fun and cool. But I had a period of having very much pain, and I was like, okay, I have to cut something off. And the most natural answer was to cut off downhill and some Super G events. So it's nothing to do with like, I don't like it, I can't do it. I can do it. It's just that too many race days, too many, like the schedule, you know. So that's why.
Yeah, it is a brutal schedule. And like you said, so many para athletes are doing multiple events. Same in para cross country, which I compete in. People do biathlon and cross country. So some people will race 7 times in the 9 days in Milan, which is a crazy schedule to compete in. And Milan is just about a month away. So what can you tell us about your goals, your hopes for Milan? Is there something you want to accomplish on the field of play? Like, what are you dreaming of for Milan?
This is my second Paralympic Games. This time, there's not a virus going on.
No COVID?
Yeah, so this time is going to be different, I think, in a positive way, more open, more free. I will have my family there, boyfriend, friends. Which I think will make a huge difference. I have said a lot in media that I will try to enjoy this time a lot more, because the first time I was 21 and I was just, I don't know, not enjoying anything. It was overwhelming. Yeah, and this time I'm gonna enjoy it more.
Oh, love that.
And it's a very boring answer, but it's true.
No, I think the fact for so many athletes that friends and family will be there, that you don't have to worry about the horrors of COVID nearly as much as when we were in Beijing, and you're obviously closer to home in Italy than going all the way to China. So I think it makes total sense.
Yeah, and of course I have like goals of my own. I want to be competitive in the speed events like Super G and Super Combined. If I take a medal, I'm super happy. And in slalom and giant slalom, I am aiming for the gold. But we'll see. You know, now that I have Beijing in my backpack, I know that things can happen. I know that it depends on the course and whatever, and you can crash like I did. So
yeah, that's something I think with your sport, it's so variable because of courses and conditions, and the crashes can be so significant. I mean, I remember I feel like in the US had a lot of like crazy hope and expectation for Andrew Kirka to come into Beijing and defend his gold. But unfortunately, a crash takes him out in training one day and he doesn't get to compete the rest of the time. And we're seeing that right now. You know, Lindsey Vonn just had a huge crash before her Olympic comeback. So that with Alpine and downhill skiing is, I feel like, one of the things that can be so unpredictable. So how do you avoid thinking about all the what ifs?
I don't know. Today at the start, I had some intrusive thoughts like, what if this is the last, you know, those stupid kind of thoughts. And you just have to like, oh, no. And just go with the flow, just focus. And I try to say the words over and over again at the start so I don't start thinking about some stupid shit. But I mean, you're saying in my sport, it's unpredictable and whatever. I think in your sport, it's like if you get a little bit of a cold, you're out. So that's also weird.
Yeah, I know, the endurance sport that you have to be so attentive to how your body's feeling and stuff. And I feel like that is the biggest thing for both the Olympic and Paralympic side is everyone's trying to avoid getting sick at all times during the winter, because it can be so detrimental if you miss like a few days of training and you're just not getting your aerobic workouts in that you need, and your base isn't there.
Yeah,
so,
tell me about
yeah,
I was
definitely.
I was out for a month and a half this season.
Oh my gosh.
First time I've been.
Were you able to train through that sickness or not at all?
No, I got stomach sick in December, really bad. And went racing after that and got so like exhausted, and then I went home for Christmas, and then I just catch something that wouldn't go away until middle of January something.
Oh geez.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're on the up and up now and back to racing. You have a little bit over a month to go to Milan. So as we look at Milan, my last question for you is, what is one word to describe your relationship with skiing right now?
My relationship with skiing right now is like how I've always wanted it to be. Like when I'm at the start, I'm very happy. Like it's been a couple of years between the games where I've had some motivation problems. It's been a little bit boring and alone, you know, being in the room, always alone, the only girl in the team. And now we had some changes in the team, doing a lot of new stuff, and I feel like I'm more excited to go skiing. And I love that kind of feeling, because the years before was like, thinking about skiing was not very positive, and now it's really positive.
Positive. That's a great word to describe it. Oh my gosh. Love that. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time. And we're going to be cheering you on in Beijing. We're going to be cheering you on in Milan, stuck in the Beijing thoughts. And we're hoping you can stay healthy and defend your gold medals from the last
Well,
games.
thank you, and good luck to you too.
Thank you. Ebba Årsjö, the best athlete you've never heard of. Hidden Champions is a FIS original production by FIS, the International Ski and Snowboard Federation, in partnership with Maniac Studios.